Atlanta. So, good morning, brothers and sisters. I'm watching an old video. Let me tell you about this video. Okay, so it goes hand in hand. It kind of reminded me of this story. I completely forgot about it. So, back in, I thought it was more like 2007. The video was posted in 2011, which is years after this actually happened, and I'll post a link to the video below. We went on TDY, which is short for tour duty. It was actually like an exercise that we went on. So sometimes when you're in a unit and you go to another base and you train, you go through a simulated war, kind of like. And we ended up going up to Alaska from South Dakota to Eilson Air Force Base. Now, if you know anything about Eilson Air Force Base, beautiful area. It's near Fairbanks, Alaska. There's actually a town called the North Pole, which is funny. Quick story. I ran into a friend of mine that I went through tech school with. It's funny when you're in the military, sometimes you might run into people that you went to basic training with or you went to tech school with, and you're just like, it's been years, but you're so excited because they're in the military doing the same thing you are, but for a different platform, and it was exciting. So I saw my friend Zarek. She was in my tech school. She's this little blonde girl. I loved her. And so we hung out together the whole time. She took me out to the North Pole, and I was like, yeah, I'll take some Taco Bell. And she goes, yeah, let's go to Taco Bell. We're going through the drive-thru, and in the town of the North Pole, even if it's July, light posts have a candy cane design. There's still like Christmas stuff everywhere. And not kidding, going through the Taco Bell drive-thru, Jingle Bells was playing on the music. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, that's adorable. And she's like, yeah, after 3 years, it's really adorable. She was over it. She hates the North Pole, but that's okay. The story I'm telling you today is about the jets. So we came up to, I'm going to turn off the monitor so it's not flashing blue light. We came up to Eilson Air Force Base with our B-1 bombers to train with the F-16s. Besides the American F-16s that are normally stationed in Eilson, the French Air Force, it's been years, it's been over 10 years, but I believe it was the French Air Force was also there for the exercise for some, you know, international training. They're allies, so, you know, it was a little different to see those airmen in their uniforms. I've never seen so many men wear such tight pants. I guess it's their uniform style. Whatever it is, they were great people though. So I'm going to illustrate for you a little bit about the flight line. In most flight lines, and I hope I can do this while looking at you. So their flight line, they have the main flight line where you start from one direction and take off. It's the longest piece of road in every flight line. Sometimes there's two. Then every flight line has little driveways coming off it, right? And each of these driveways have kind of like a turnaround area. It's a huge paved area where the jets can move around, get situated, and make their way onto the flight line from whatever side or direction. The hangars that house all the jets, or the jet, like where they park the jets, will usually be all along the side. And then off to this direction at Eilson Air Force Base were like the maintenance buildings, and then there was a fence, and a lot of us would line up along the fence and watch the jets take off. It doesn't sound like it's something really exciting, but when it's your B-1 taking off, you're right there. You're like, yeah, I know those guys. So anyways, bear this in mind. Let me show you one more thing. A little tutorial, shall we? I'm going to try to make this easy. So The F-16 jet. Very cool jet, very badass. The best way to, single stabilizer, single jet engine, right? If you've ever seen F-16s on TV, you'll see that they have this single jet like this with the air intake here, and then the air goes in this direction and it just shoots out a ton of debris and air on the other end. Very powerful jet. For the weight and the size of the fuselage and the wings and everything else that it carries, it's a lot of power. These you can recognize usually because they have a single stabilizer in the back. And when you see the front of the jet, say this is the fuselage where the cockpit is right there, you can always see a little smiley face underneath. That's the intake. All F-16s have a smiley face intake. No other jet has one like it. So this is the F-16 one jet, right? Lockheed Martin is the company that built the B-1 bombers. When they built the B-1 bombers, they built basically a giant jet, just a giant jet, not a bomber style like the B-52s or the B-2s, but a jet style. So here's the cockpit, and then they have variable wing spans. It's basically wings that can move in and out. So when they're banking around the turn, the wings go outward and kind of help hold the G-forces inward. And when they're going down low and cutting through air, these wings come in for a very sleek design so that they can cut through more air. Well, these things are powered by 4 of these F-16 jet engines. They literally took 4 F-16 engines and strapped them to the bottom of the B-1 bombers. So that's a lot of air. Have you ever seen the video of that guy in the Navy who was on the aircraft carrier, got sucked into a jet engine and kicked out the other side? Everybody couldn't believe he lived. It's that powerful. It can take a full-grown man in front of just one jet engine and literally spit him out on the other side. Imagine 4 of those. So this is what happened at Eilson Air Force Base. I was standing over beyond the fence. I had already done my part in the morning with the air crew, and now it was time for them to go fly the exercises. They have airspace out in Alaska where they train. I don't remember how many F-16s, but I know we had at least 3 bombers that were going to fly out. And so the bombers were in this hangar here, and the F-16s were kind of all over. There are some parked here, some in the hangar over here. And so our guy came out of this hangar and started to turn onto this driveway. But there were other bombers that were either taking off that direction or the other direction, so he had to wait. Then F-16s were supposed to take off after the B-1 bomber. So this guy comes out and he's kind of turned right here and he's waiting. However, he wants to get from here over to this takeoff because the F-16s, they don't actually, they want to take off from that far end of the flight line, right? The general rule of thumb, when you're behind an F-16, I believe you need to be about 100 feet away from the back end of it because the jet engine kicks out such strong air. But when you're behind a B-1 bomber, it has to be more than 200 feet. So these guys are in the habit of only being about 100 feet away from the guy behind you. No big deal. I think in a momentary lapse of training, he forgot that. And so he started to take off, and not take off, but started to just drive. They just kind of taxi. And so he started to taxi in this direction, got right behind this B-1 bomber. I'm going to make it thick. And the air from coming out the back end of this bomber, literally you could see on a video, the F-16's going forward and then he starts to tip over, the wing hits the ground, and then he just drifts like a leaf blowing away in the wind. And then the cameraman just like turns back to the next bomber and watched the takeoff. It was like he didn't even care. He's like, oh look, there goes an F-16. So there's a bomber over there taking off. Let's watch that. I watched that video several times, and here's my reaction. When we were there, I didn't actually see the part where the F-16 tipped over. Everybody was like, oh my God. And I looked and I'm like, what? And I couldn't actually see what was happening until I saw the movement of an F-16. I just saw it drifting sideways like this. I didn't see it tip over. I only saw it tip over when I actually we found out that somebody actually had a video of it, and we're like, and this was before YouTube was real popular, so I couldn't believe that I was able to find that video on YouTube. Here we are more than 10 years later, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. I gotta tell everybody. So we were all at the fence of the flight line, and I hear, oh my God, and we're all looking, and after about 3 seconds, I kind of look around, and you know, there's about 15 of us from our squadron just sitting there watching it. Everybody had the same exact look on their face. It was like, what? Is anybody going to do anything? We were just like, what do we do? It was such a loss. And, you know, we had comments like, oh, that pilot's probably going to lose his wings, or, you know, there's so many kind of like, we want to joke about it, but it is kind of a sad situation because that guy might get in a lot of trouble, and we didn't want to like be mean, but it was kind of funny because at one point I think one of the NCOs kind of turned to all of us and he's like, I think we better get back. There may be a briefing about this. And there was totally a safety briefing after that, and they assured us that the pilot was okay and that there was minor damages, but there are parts that are going to have to be repaired, but they were going to move forward with the exercise. Good for them. I went and talked to my friend Zarek, and I was like, so what was going on? And she's like, I'm not the pilot, I don't know. And we were just kind of laughing about it. But it was a great training exercise. I actually have one more story to tell you about something that happened during that whole exercise. There's a few, actually. It was quite the experience being there. And it was my first training exercise outside of Ellsworth Air Force Base. So I'll make another video for you guys, and we'll talk. But I'll also post a link below of the video that I'm talking about. And just know, I was there. You couldn't hear me. I'm way off of the flight line watching from the field next to the fence, but I was there. And when I saw that, it was a weird moment of, well, should we do something? I mean, everybody's just staring. It was unbelievable. But anyways, it's one of those things you never forget, right? Alright guys, as you can see, I'm waiting for my hair to dry. Gonna go get dressed, get to work. I woke up this morning honestly thinking it was Thursday, and then the husband put the trash out and I realized it's Wednesday. So I'm gonna have that kind of day. So thanks for helping me kick it off with a little bit of laughter. I will make another video for you guys soon. I do have some things I've been reading about in scripture, so maybe it would help some of you guys, and it helps me because I'm not perfect either, so I need all the help I can get, right? Alright you guys, I love you. I hope you guys are loving each other, and as always, stay salty.